Right, we are live. How are you guys doing? We're back, and we don't normally do shows like this. And the reason why is because it's very hard for me to get people who actually know about fantasy football that actually want to talk about fantasy football. So we tried to set something up with Tom Aston, but he's very busy, and I'm really busy, which is why I don't have the time to do this every week because I've still got to do the rest of the Arsenal stuff and I've got to do the movies and the TV reviews and all of that. So this is just something I've never had the time to do. But Ian, you guys know Ian from our Friday night Premier League show. He's been missing for a while because he's been very busy. But today he said, we'll give you half an hour just to talk fantasy football, who's hot and who's not. So Ian, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, mate. It's great to hear your voice, your melodious tones back. It's you were breathy last time I was on here, so yeah, good to see you sounding a lot better, mate.
Yeah, I mean it's a big challenge for me right now, but I think I'm getting stronger and I think I'm fighting through it. So for me, I can see the benefit in it, but I just absolutely love the fact that I'm in this position now and I'm grateful for it every single day. So yeah, I'm just onwards and upward.
And your boys second in the league as well, so that has to cheer you up.
Yeah, it's sort of the start that we wanted, and it's a translation through what we've seen in preseason. They're doing exactly the same thing, and it just goes to show preparation is everything. It really is.
Well, you had a fantastic preseason, and it's flowed into the season, and you've now got a terrific run of fixtures coming up. So
we have,
from a fantasy perspective, I mean, I know you wanted to sort of talk about who's hot and who's not. Is there anyone hotter than Arsenal, really?
Exactly.
Jesus obviously had that fantastic preseason. Came up with a blank in game one, but made up for it big time in game
7 goals, man.
I know. Despite his massive ownership, I took a punt. I was a bit too clever for my own good. I took a punt and went with Callum Wilson for the first couple of weeks with every intention of bringing Jesus. No. Every intention of bringing Jesus in for game week 3. And I thought, right, dodged a bullet in game week 1, got away with that. Just one more game week. And then, of course, it all came crashing down on Saturday. So he's in for Callum Wilson for game week 3. And I think he'll be in for the foreseeable. But then, I mean, if you play fantasy football, chances are Jesus is in your team already because I think he's near enough 75% owned. I don't know. Even Salah in his prime wasn't owned to that extent. It's because he's a great value at 8 million. So he's too good to pass up.
So at the moment, we've learned that Manchester United are in deep trouble. So
thank goodness, because otherwise we'd be bottom. But fortunately, we're one off the bottom because Man United are so rank. So don't have any Man United players in your team, I think is the answer at the moment. You've really got to see how this is going to play out. There isn't a single player on that team who you could say is standing out doing anything. I thought Sancho was quite well priced at the start of the year and was keeping a beady eye on him. And also Rashford, of course, at 6.5 million. You thought, well, if he reverts to the Rashford of 2 or 3 years ago, bargain.
Yeah.
But they're all pants at the moment. And of course, they're coming up against a wounded Liverpool team next week. And we know what Liverpool did to them last year at Old Trafford. And I believe at Anfield as well. So, Liverpool are, they've started off a bit shonky and they're going to seriously need to put their foot down. They're already 4 points behind Man City. And you could almost, the way Man City have been playing, and to be honest, the way Arsenal have been playing, you can almost pretty much say, well, the season's over. Liverpool, 4 points, as we know, is a lot to claw back.
Yeah.
Especially after you've played Fulham and Crystal Palace. And no offence to Fulham and Crystal Palace, but you would expect Liverpool to have 6 points on the board by now,
exactly.
And they've only got 2.
If you're title contenders, those are the games you have to be winning. But at the moment,
especially at home, like tonight, especially at home, and of course, and now you're without your new wonder striker. And I was going to suggest, when you suggested doing this tonight, I was going to sort of keep it. He was going to be one of those guys, top of the list. He's someone you're going to want to bring in. Well, of course, you're not going to want to bring him in for a couple of games now because he's going to be parked in the stands, isn't he? But they've got injuries. I mean, Liverpool, bizarrely, this early on, they seem to have got a lot of niggles, a lot of injuries, and that back line. I mean, I've got Alexander-Arnold and Robertson at the back, which isn't particularly doing me very well at the moment. They're looking shaky, and I'm seriously thinking of doing the switch from 2 Liverpool to 2 Man City. Man City looks solid as anything at the back, and I don't think you can go far wrong if you've got Ederson, one of their defenders, or if you've got 2 of their defenders. Absolutely, route 1, bag yourself 12 points plus all the bonuses every week at the moment, and put them in the bank.
So we can have a little look. First of all, we can see what your team is doing. Let's just see if we can get it up.
No, please don't look and see what my team's doing.
Last
year, you can talk about last year. Last year, 1,272 in the world out of 9 million.
Yeah,
this year, currently 6.5 million. No, 4.5 million. So yeah, not good.
Very impressive. So talk us through your team. Ramsdale in goal.
Yeah, I wanted Arsenal coverage because of Arsenal's great fixtures, but also I couldn't have 2 Arsenal defenders because, as I said to you, bringing in Jesus. So Jesus is coming in for Wilson this week, and Martinelli again is a bargain. I figured worth the 2 million saving over Saka, and proving to be the case, to be honest, at the moment. I've gone big at the back. Perisic has obviously been a disappointment the first 2 weeks, but he looked very good when he came on for that last sort of 10 minutes yesterday. Obviously got the assist late on, and I'll be amazed if he doesn't start this week with a nice little fixture run for Spurs coming up. So the 5 at the back, happy with, but obviously the 2 Liverpool guys with Robertson coming off just after the 60 minutes tonight obviously didn't help with Nunes being sent off, so they had to rejig what they were doing. But I'm happy with the back 5. It's the big at the back that's been popular in fantasy this year. Salah obviously he's not a no-brainer in the middle, and he's got a fairly lucky goal and assist in game week 1, and he's been shut out tonight. So nobody is an absolute must-have in this game. I've learnt that from playing this for a few years now. You hear this expression "must-have," but you can go away from people like that. And Diaz looked spectacular on his goal tonight, so you could save a few bob, go for Diaz, and spend that money elsewhere if you wanted to. At the moment, I think, and Martinelli obviously is a gem in the midfield. And really the third midfielder slot was one that I thought, well, it's worth a gamble. I did like the look of Aaronson at Leeds. They've got a great fixture run coming up. I'm still happy with the selection. He hasn't yet got on the score sheet. He should have done in game week 1. Of course, it ended up being called an own goal, whereas really he should have got the credit for it. And I think I'm going to stick with him. He's looking quite good, and he's the sort of guy that could sort of suddenly bag a couple of assists, and you're laughing. Bailey,
so what I like about your defensive line is everybody in there can get assists. Yeah, that's what I like about it. I've always gone with the old.
They're all wing backs.
Yeah, exactly. They're all wing backs. I've always gone with the formula where you have stunning midfield, great strikers, and a shit defense, and that's probably why I've never won the fantasy league before, because my defenders hardly gets me any points. Yeah, but I think I try to be a little bit more balanced.
Defenders are a fantastic way of harvesting points. If you can get defenders from good, solid defenses that have got a good potential to get you a clean sheet, then you've already bagged 6 points. And then if you can get any bonuses on top of that, you're absolutely laughing. Cancelo, for example, this week got a clean sheet and an assist. Maximum bonus, I think. Suddenly you've got 11 points there, and they really mount up over the course of the season. Plus the fact this year defenders have been priced remarkably economically. I mean, who would have thought James would have been available at 6 million?
That's
as a centre back, that's good value. But as a wing back, that's ridiculous. As judged by his goal yesterday. I mean, he played most of the game as a centre back, moved him out onto the wing when they made the substitutions, and bang, he scores. So, I think on reflection, I wish I'd gone 2 Man City rather than the 2 Liverpool guys. But then hindsight is wonderful, isn't it? But
it is.
But I think at the moment, certainly up until the first international break, where Liverpool and Man City have got such great fixtures. Chelsea aren't bad. Spurs aren't bad either in terms of fixtures. All the big clubs have got a nice little run. So that sort of big at the back can take you through until game week 7, maybe something like that, round about the international break. Then you can think about playing a wild card because, of course, we have this almost like a freebie wild card this year because we're all going to get free transfers after the World Cup.
Week 16, I think.
Week 16, we've all got this bonus free transfers, everything like that. So your first wild card, where you used to have to sort of really plan it, because that would take you up to, the mid-20 game weeks. It's only got to take you up to game week 16. So if you can time that right for a fixture swing or something like that, some people may have to go early because they've maybe made mistakes early on and feel they need to use it early. But I think somewhere between weeks, maybe 5 to 7 is the time to jump in with your wild card. Depending on injuries, because European football starts around about game week 5. That's when we're going to start seeing rotation in the bigger teams.
So before I go and have a look at my team, just wanted to get your thoughts on which teams to avoid next week. So take, for instance, Palace is playing Aston Villa. I don't think there's going to be much action there. Leicester's going to be at Southampton. Bournemouth are going to be at home to Arsenal. And then I think
I'd avoid Bournemouth then.
Yeah. And then I think we've got, actually there might be some goals in Fulham Brentford. Yeah. So I'm taking Fulham Brentford out of that equation. Simon's probably
I mean, to be honest, in terms of if you're literally looking at a single week, the 2 or 3 teams I would avoid completely would be Man United. They're playing Monday night. Yes, it's at Old Trafford, but they're playing Liverpool, and I think Liverpool are going to come ready because Liverpool. It's a must-win for both teams, really. But Man United don't really have title pretensions. Liverpool do, and they need it more, really. Man United, I think, will be happy with a draw. So Man United I would avoid. Newcastle are at home to Man City. Newcastle have been resilient. Nick Pope was outstanding at the weekend, but will he be able to keep Erling Haaland at bay? Not sure about that. So I'd avoid Newcastle and certainly Bournemouth. I mean, Bournemouth are playing, they're coming off the back, bless them, of playing Man City, and now they've got the other hottest team in the country coming into their place. Make sure you've got 3 Arsenal in your team this week if you can. And say, Jesus is coming in for me, so I've got Jesus, Martinelli, and Ramsdale. I think all 3 of those are going to return quite handily. And I think Jesus is going to be my captain. After seeing Salah tonight, he's not convincing. Haaland away at Newcastle. I think Newcastle could keep City to 1 or 2 goals. Yeah. So I think Jesus is probably going to be my captain this week, to be honest.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of the other middling teams are not avoids. Like you're saying, you've got Spurs against Wolves. Spurs can always concede. Not that Wolves are ever going to score. So, you're fairly safe with Spurs, I would say. Palace Villa could go either way. Everton Forest could go either way, to be honest. Fulham Brentford, exactly the same. Leicester at home to Southampton. Got to fancy Leicester, I think, in that one. Although, again, they've brought nobody in. And there's still rumours of Tielemans coming to you guys. And obviously Newcastle are knocking on the door for Maddison. Happening. Leicester could be in a dodgy situation in 2 or 3 weeks if they don't pull their finger out. Leeds Chelsea. Leeds are at home. Chelsea can concede, as we saw at the weekend. So, don't necessarily be afraid of playing your Leeds players. I wouldn't be confident if it was at Stamford Bridge, but at Ellen Road, got a chance. West Ham Brighton could go either way. We have no points on the board at the moment. I mean, dreadfully unlucky. I don't know if you saw the game yesterday.
I did.
Crossbar twice.
I know.
Lanzini wasn't on the pitch to take the penalty. It just was a complete. Yeah, it was one of those days that you just put in the rearview mirror. So. But Brighton, we never do well against Brighton, so that one could go either way.
I tell you where, I mean, when I heard that Skamaka was on the bench, I just was like, look, I talked to my Spurs fan. Andy, who does Friday night Premier League. We were having a discussion last week's stream. We did a vote on the summer on how was your transfers, and I put Arsenal above Spurs. And the reason why we did that, yeah. And the reason why we did that is because we were saying, But in hindsight, now we can look at it. I think it was the correct thing to do because
I would say you're pretty evens. I would say Arsenal and Spurs have had equally good, but go on.
But they've not done anything with the players. None of their players. I mean, who's starting for them? We've got Jesus, Zinchenko. We've got new players who are starting to us and having massive impact. They went in against Kante yesterday and put Basuma on the bench. Now, if you look at what Basuma did to Kante last year, he played him off the park. Why would you not put him into? It doesn't make any sense.
I think the difference between the two teams. I mean, Conte, works his players hard in training and everything like that. You get the feeling that the new guys that have come into Spurs. He certainly mentioned it about Perisic. Yeah. Doherty's obviously coming back from his injury. Richarlison had the suspension, couldn't play obviously anyway, and Bissouma is coming in, and I'm sure he'll find a place. I mean, to be honest, it was Bentancur that should have got sent off yesterday, so Bissouma should have been in anyway.
Should have been in, yeah. But again, I think
the difference between
off from the bench.
Yeah, the difference between Arsenal and Spurs, from a neutral's perspective, I think Spurs have brought in great players that allows them to change a game from the subs bench, like they did yesterday. But had a good starting lineup anyway, but they lacked depth. They've now got good depth. They've now got the ability to change their system from, the wing backs to a 4-4-2 or something, or 4-2-4 or something like that. Arsenal, on the other hand, needed starters.
Yeah.
Tierney's always injured. Zinchenko has stepped in there, brilliant. Tierney's a great player, but he's always banged up. So you needed a left back to start. With Lacazette going and Aubameyang going last year, you needed a centre forward. So therefore, these guys have come in and are starting because you need them to start. Spurs don't need their new guys to start yet until they're fully integrated. That's the difference. I think both teams have done equally well in the transfer market, but Arsenal's needs were more urgent in terms of starting players.
When I saw Spurs play yesterday, I've got to be honest, I'm one of the guys who tipped Chelsea off. I didn't think Chelsea was going to account to anything this season. And I was really impressed with Chelsea, and I thought Chelsea easily should have won that game yesterday.
Yeah, they didn't look good against Everton, though. In fairness, in game week 1, they looked poor against Everton, and they were lucky. They were lucky to come away with from that game with a 1-0 win on the back of a penalty. They always play well against Spurs, though, at Stamford Bridge. And can you read too much into that game? As much as Arsenal don't like Spurs, as much as West Ham don't like Spurs, from a supporting standpoint, it does seem the big rivalry on the field is against Chelsea.
Yeah. And we do well.
They've got history. Bridge. I mean, in terms of supporters and everything like that, we love beating Spurs. You love beating Spurs. But there's this nasty, niggly history between Chelsea and Spurs now that seems to have overtaken both of us, which sounds bizarre considering you're the North London derby and everything like that. But
exactly.
Yeah, so I think you can almost discount that. See how Chelsea do at Leeds this week. See how Spurs do at home for Wolves. And I think we'll have more of a gauge on what those real teams look like after this coming weekend.
So I just want to talk you through my team. I've gone with Raya in goal. I thought that he's been giving me quite a lot of good points.
The best of the 4.5s, I would say. I mean, obviously, Brighton have got a good run coming up, and they've proved to be very resilient at the back. So Sanchez is an option, but Raya, with Brentford's fantastic run coming up, they've got through the nasty couple. I mean, who would have thought 4-0 against Man United? So Raya's good, solid pick and a bargain at that price.
So now I'm looking at this properly, and now I'm looking at it in depth. It seems to me that my issue with my team here is to go back to 4 at the back and then drop Coutinho, because Coutinho's been the guy who's really been letting me down this season, and he's the one that's got to go. I do like Neto in the midfield. Obviously, I've gone with Martinelli and I've gone with Song. Song is not going to let me down, even though he was poor yesterday. My front three speaks for itself. Jesus, Haaland, and Kane. All I'm doing each week is swapping the captaincy around from Haaland and Jesus. So Jesus will be my captain this week, going into the Bournemouth game.
Yep.
And Haaland is going to lose the armband. So that's going to happen throughout the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
Kane is just there because he's Kane, because, it'd be silly to do anything else.
Well, you can't argue with that front three. like you said, can't argue with the front three, and that's where you've made investment. Whereas a lot of teams in fantasy will have one or two strikers. You've gone big at the front as opposed to big at the back, and obviously then budget wise, and especially with Son in the middle, you've gone three big money players there, and whenever you do that, you're always going to have to make those horrible decisions elsewhere where you're cutting budgets. I mean, obviously, Neco Williams came through for you this week, but Forest aren't going to do that every week. I mean, they had a force field around their goal. I mean, Henderson, to use a hockey term, stood on his head yesterday, and he ain't going to do that every week. So,
yeah, I was about
Williams, you got away with yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
Is that Cucurella you've got?
Yeah, it's Cucurella.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to share time. That's the only trouble with Cucurella. When he gets the starts, he'll come through for you. But he's going to be sharing time on that wing. And who are your other defenders?
Yeah, I'm not sure because obviously
Tomiyasu and Shah.
Yeah, because Alonso. Oh dear, what have I done? Let me go back. Yeah, there it is. Sorry. Right, let's get that back up again. Let's get that up. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so Neto from Wolves, Son, Coutinho, and Martinelli are the midfielders. But the thing is, I've got Scala here from Newcastle, and I think I'm going to slot him in and probably take Coutinho out, and then run with the 4-3-3.
Newcastle have got good fixtures either side of Man City. You don't want to play him this week. You don't want to play Shah in there this week because they've got Man City, so you're on hiding to nothing. Is Tomiyasu injured still?
No, he's fit now. He came on. He got 20 minutes in the last game.
Well, that's your answer then. So Tomiyasu comes in for Neco, and then you're sorted at the back, and you put Neco as your first on your bench. I would have thought, and Coutinho, you can. I mean, to be honest, Coutinho's a waste of space. Their fixtures are turning now, and also he's injured. So yes, he's your main problem.
He's going.
He's your main problem for this week. 1 week punt in. It depends if you got money in the bank. 1 week punt Maddison against Southampton. Southampton.
I've got 1.5 million, so that's where that's going to go.
Well, I mean, if you're looking at a 1 week punt, I absolutely would go for James Maddison this week.
Yeah, I think so. So let me show
you
why.
He's leading the line. You can afford him, and they're at home to Southampton. And Southampton, we know, are leaky. So if you want a 1 week punt, he's your boy.
So these are the most important players that I've come up against in the first few weeks. These players, I'll go through them, are the ones that are taking corners, free kicks, and penalties. So you'll see here, there's some surprises. For Arsenal, Martinelli has taken 4 corners. Smith Rowe's taken 2. Martinelli's done a free kick as well. So you can see Martinelli's going to rack up a lot of free kicks here. For Aston Villa, it's McGinn, 3 corners.
Martinelli is very lively around the box as well. I mean, he's scored obviously in both games. He's on a roll. You've got great fixtures coming up. He's his price. He's probably gone more than 6 now. He's probably 6-1 or something like that. But at his price, an absolute stone cold bargain. Smith Rowe, not so much.
Yeah. For Bournemouth, we've only had. Can you imagine? Bournemouth have only had 1 corner in 2 games.
But you got to discount. I mean, in fairness, I mean, I'm not sure about his dress sense, but Scott Parker did rightly say. We don't really consider an away game at Manchester City something we're ever going to get anything from. So discount game week 2. I think Tavernier or Taverner could be quite interesting if you're looking to replace someone like Bailey.
So I was going to come on to that because the idea here, Ian, is for us to find some gems who are going to pick up points from various different things. And if we look
he's on corners, free kicks. I think he's going to be good. But at the moment, Bournemouth don't have a good fixture run, so avoid at the moment.
So look at Jensen. Jensen for Brentford, 4 corners, 2 free kicks, and a shot from an indirect free kick as well. And if Tony doesn't take the penalties, then it'd probably be him. So that's
Tony's taking the penalties.
Yep.
Best penalty taker in the world, according to Mr. Frank.
For Brighton, it's Gross.
Gross is very interesting. Gross is very interesting at the moment. He's playing in a slightly different position this year, and obviously he bagged a couple against Man United. And Brighton actually have a nice set of fixtures coming up. Brighton's problem this year is going to be the same as it's been for the last 2 or 3 years. Is putting the ball in the net,
and that's why they wanted Nketiah.
Gross may well be on penalties because Maupay, by the looks of it, is on the way out. Gross may well be on penalties. But yeah, Brighton aren't a team you want to go for if you're hunting goals, to be honest.
Yeah. And then we've got Chelsea. So Mount has taken 4 corners. Kukela's taken 4 as well. And then Kukela's taken a free kick. And we know James takes free kicks. So those guys are pretty much covered because they're on both of our teams. For Everton, it seems to be Gray.
Avoid.
Gray.
Don't go anywhere near him.
Exactly. I definitely agree. For Fulham, it's Andreas, and Mitrovic takes the penalties.
Andreas is interesting because he's he is your bargain 4.5 midfielder of choice because he's on pretty much all set pieces, I think. Yeah. He's say at 4.5, you can't really argue with that. He's a guy you can have on your bench for you every week. He's going to start every week. He's going to get you 2 points, and if you're lucky, you could get an assist or you might get a fluky goal. If you get really and truly, though, so I think his ownership is quite high, but Mitrovic is the guy to go for. I would say yes, he obviously scored 2 in game week 1, but then he missed the penalty this week.
He missed the penalty, yeah, exactly.
When Fulham's fixtures turn, let me have a very, very quick look. So I know we're pushed for time. When Fulham's fixtures turn, game week 8. Now, I said about a wild card round about game week 7, game week 8. Fulham, over the next set of fixtures, they've got Brentford, tough, as we know at the moment. Arsenal the following week, Brighton, tough, defensively at least, Spurs, then Chelsea. So that's their next set of games. You wouldn't really fancy Fulham in any of those. They might get a couple of goalless draws, but you wouldn't really fancy them in any of those games. After that, from game week 8, Forest, Newcastle, West Ham, Bournemouth, Villa, Leeds, Everton. And then they've got Man City just before the break. But apart from Man City in game week 15, from game week 8 to game week 14, you're probably going to want Mitrovic in your lineup. You've got your 3 big forwards, and you probably wouldn't because if you're happy to stick with big at the front. But if you're looking to save money on any of those, you might shift away. Or if there's an injury or something like that, Mitrovic would be a go-to guy, certainly from week 8. But I wouldn't go early on him yet. Yeah,
because normally what I do when I get an injury with the forward line I just put an extra body in the midfield or maybe put an extra defender in there. So that's the advantage when you have 3 at the back. It's like you can always compensate for a striker if he gets injured or anything like that.
The trouble is that with the amount you're spending on your strikers, if they get injured, you can't afford to put 12 million on the bench. You shift them out. If they're out for 2 or 3 weeks, you shift them out because you can spend that money elsewhere.
Exactly. So Leeds United, Harrison is big money.
Harrison's doing well. Harrison's doing very well on that left wing, and Aronson, who I've got in my team, on the right wing, doing very well. And of course, Rodrigo is the highest scoring player in Fantasy Premier League. Yeah,
exactly. Leicester City, Maddison, that speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Liverpool.
TPC, not Nunes. No, it's like I said earlier on. Salah will be the default for a lot of players, but Diaz looked. That goal tonight needs to be seen to be believed. That was fantastic. It reminded me of Payet's goal, I think, against Palace. Yes, funnily enough, Payet's goal about 5 years ago, where he literally jinked past about 5 or 6 players before putting it in the net. Absolute genius. So he could be still a nice option away from Salah if you want to save money away from there. I still like Alexander-Arnold and Robertson because of what they can do at both ends of the pitch, but injuries now are starting to worry me with Liverpool for their potential of clean sheets. That's the only thing.
Yeah. So for Manchester City...
If you can have all 11, have all 11. No, I would say the way to go, because of the famous Pep roulette that we're all fully aware of, you want to go Haaland at the front. He's the focus this year. They're changing how they play. You can see Foden got yanked off at half time because he didn't square the ball to Haaland. Or so goes the rumour. Is Foden on the naughty step again?
So you can see De Bruyne's had 7 corners so far in 2
De Bruyne
games.
is the other guy, but you would be hard pressed to have De Bruyne and Haaland in your team. I think we'd all love to have De Bruyne and Haaland in our teams, but you've then got to make concessions elsewhere, which you could do if you sort of went, okay, fine, I'm going to go away from Salah. I'm going to put De Bruyne in there. But then that leaves you only one Man City defensive spot. And at the moment, they've had 2 clean sheets and they don't look like they're going to concede. So, do you go with I'll stick 2 at the back. I'll cash in on those points. I'll have Haaland up front, which means you don't, unfortunately, have space for De Bruyne. But he's certainly in consideration if you've only got one Man City at the back and if you wanted to be daring and go away from Salah with his ownership. But yeah.
So is it worth saying anything about Man United and Christian Eriksen?
No.
I mean, look what Brentford are doing now. And remember, Brentford never lost a game when he started. And
Man United are a mess. They don't seem to know what their best team is. I think the locker room is toxic.
Stay away
no
from
player
those players.
No player stands out there.
Yeah,
you wouldn't want to be spending
away.
any money on Man United. It may turn around, but why go there? There are so many good options in the game at the moment. Why go there?
Yeah.
Avoid
until
they turn around.
Kieran Trippier. He's taken 3 so far, and he's going to be very busy.
2 clean sheets.
Yeah,
2 clean sheets. But obviously their fixtures now are very one good, one bad.
Yeah.
So you've got to be careful now because essentially they've got Man City this week, they've got Wolves the following week, which is fine, but then they've got Liverpool, and then the run improves again after that. But over the next 3 weeks, they've got Man City and Liverpool.
So this is my trump card now. So this is really what I want to talk about. Nico Williams, he cost me 4 million in week 1, and he's prominent at set plays for Nottingham Forest. Not only taking indirect free kicks, but all of his team's 6 corners from both sides of the pitch, left and right. So that is where he's an absolute bargain. So
if you're not going big at the back, if you haven't got 5 big guns at the back like I have, get Neco Williams. I mean, at the end, he's not going to be 4 million for long. Not playing like he did yesterday. He's not going to be 4 million for long. And a 4 million defender who is playing every week is gold dust in this game, as we know. And at the end of the day, if you're wildcarding it, if you haven't got him, and obviously it's not a priority move, but if you haven't got him and you haven't got an urgent transfer to make and you're looking to just save money in defence, can't go wrong with Neco Williams.
Yep,
I wouldn't go anywhere else with Forest at the moment. However, their number 9 yesterday, whose name escapes me, but he looked the guy who scored the goal. I won't try and pronounce his name because I'll get it wrong. And their number 9, he looked to me a bit like an Antonio, but with more flair. He's a big guy. He's not going to get pushed off the ball. He's got a nose for goal. I mean, yes, the ball came off his kneecap or what have you and went in, but he was there and he was a presence all game and he's quick. And I think when they have awful fixtures at the moment, but when their fixtures improve, definitely a guy to keep your eye on and a 6 million forward. He's worth a look at, but not at the moment. But when their fixtures improve, Southampton I'd avoid.
Yeah,
apart from Ward-Prowse.
Ward-Prowse is doing everything. He's taking corners, free kicks. And he's their penalty
he's a one-man team. He's a one-man team, and he can bang you in a free kick in any game. He could score against Man City. He could score against Liverpool if he gets a free kick in the right area. He's got that. He's that talented. But would you want a Southampton player at the moment? Again, bit like Man United.
Better options elsewhere.
No need to go there.
Tottenham, we already talked about Perisic. As you can see, he's taken 3 corners. Song has taken
if he
2.
starts this week, fine. If he's benched again this week, I think it's a move on from him because he's obviously not fit enough. And with European games coming up as well, he's not going to get the starts that you need. You can get better value elsewhere. But if he starts this week...
I did say this to Andy. I said he's 33 years old and he's never played in the Premier League. And when you come to this league, you'll realise just how intense it is. And
Conte, who's had him before, is already saying he's not the Perisic I know. He's not fit enough. So, and if he starts, he's probably going to get yanked on 62, 63 minutes if you're lucky. And that's actually from a defensive point of view. If Spurs have got a clean sheet at that moment, fine. I'm quite happy for my defender to come off and bank a clean sheet on 62 minutes, but you don't want him coming off on 59 minutes because that's annoying.
So this brings me to West Ham, your team, and Bowen. As you know, he was in double-digit goals, double-digit assists last season. He's already taken 4 corners. Ben Ram has taken 1 free kick. Cresswell's taken a free kick, but he's taken 3 corners as well. And then Declan Rice on penalties. What's going on there?
No, Declan Rice shouldn't be on penalties. Declan Rice was only on penalties yesterday because Lanzini wasn't on the field. Lanzini would be the penalty taker, or it might be Scamacca when he starts, or when he's on the field. It might well be Scamacca now, but it was Lanzini last year because Dec did miss a couple, and Declan isn't a penalty taker. He's a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, but he's not a penalty taker, and he knows he's not a penalty taker.
So why isn't Scamacca playing? Because this was a guy who was valued at 60, 70 million. Oh,
fitness apparently. He hadn't played much in pre-season, and Moyes wanted to get him up to fitness. I would be surprised if he doesn't get a rollout in the next week or so, because Antonio puts himself about. And Antonio can be a force, but I would like to see what Scamacca's got from the outset, and I think a lot of West Ham fans would. The fact we spent that money on him, I think we need to see what he's capable of.
So
because at the moment we're not clicking. We haven't scored a goal in 2 games, so I wouldn't yet go. We've got Brighton, which is never easy. We've got Villa the following week away, but then we've got Spurs and Chelsea. So again, West Ham are a team that if you're looking to wildcard round about week 7, week 8, from week 7, they've got Newcastle, Everton, Wolves, Fulham, Southampton. Nice little run. So I would give West Ham another 2 or 3 weeks, see how they're doing, and look to jump on them round about week 7, week 8. Bowen's a great player. He'll come good, but just at the moment, team's not really clicking. They need to get a couple of results first.
And Neto for Wolves is taking 3 penalties and a free kick, and he's one of the reasons why I put him in my team. He's a very productive midfielder, very underrated. I actually heard West Ham were in for him this summer.
Oh, were they? Oh, that was. We've been in for a lot, but I've not heard him. The trouble with Wolves is they can't score.
Yeah.
Even with an open goal, he couldn't score. So, again, Wolves. They've got a so-so run, and I would say, but to be honest, though, if you're going to invest in Wolves, Jose Sarr at the back, but he's 5 million, so you might as well get Raya or Sanchez at 4.5. Wolves they're another team a bit like Man United, a bit like Southampton. It's like, why? No need.
So is there any other good deals out there? I looked at Fabinho, 5.5 million. It is going to be heavily involved in Liverpool's setup.
It's the trouble is it's still early days, and for a lot of teams, we don't know quite who the real solid starting lineups are. And this 5 substitutes that we've now got this season is making a big difference because a lot of players are coming on, a lot of players are getting minutes. And
you know why I'm laughing? Because that reminds me of running back by committee.
Well, it almost is. We look at Spurs. You look at Spurs, it's wing back by committee, isn't it? The starters are going to get 60 to 65 minutes. The backups are going to come on and get the last 20, 25 minutes. That's the way it's looking. And you just hope that your guys can cash in when they can. What you're looking for, or what I'm looking for as an experienced player, are players who aren't necessarily playing in Europe, who are talismans on their team and have good fixtures. So when the fixtures change, again, round about week 7, week 8, I'd be looking at someone like Wilfried Zaha. I'd be looking at someone like James Maddison. People like that. They're not playing in Europe. They're playing once a week. Yeah. They're probably not even going to play in their cup games, the Caribou Cup and all that sort of stuff. They're going to be playing once a week. They're not going to be rested. They are going to be playing 35, 36 games a season if they stay healthy. Those guys that you can slot in at a decent price and just leave there and roll them out every week because they're going to give you 75 to 90 minutes every week and could be productive. Zaha scored tonight, for example. Maddison scored at the weekend. Those sort of guys are the guys to keep an eye out on. At the moment, run with your Liverpools, run with your Cities, run with your Arsenals because there's no European football until week 5. Once we get beyond week 5, the whole landscape could change in terms of who's starting and who's not. So that would be the thing to look out for when we get to the fixture changes between week 5 and week 7. Have a look out for those absolute talismans on their team that are going to play every week. They can do the job for you every week. And then, obviously have your stars in there like your Salahs and your Haalands, because, and Jesus, if he carries on doing what he's doing. But it's how you fill those middle slots. And obviously then the bargains, like we've said, with Andreas at Fulham in midfield at 4.5, Neco Williams at Forest at the back for 4. Bargain basement prices, guys that are going to be playing 90 minutes.
So the last question I have before we leave is, what would be your advice if you look at the guys at the top who are doing well? And, in our league, it's 61 players. In the 101 league, I'm 20th at the moment.
So am I in it this year? Am I in it this year? I think I am in it. I won it last year.
I know.
Sorry, go on. I tell you what, starting at 4.5 million after 2 weeks. 10K is my dream, but it's a distant dream at the moment. But anyway, go on. Sorry, what was your question? Yes.
So the question is, if a player that you own is dropping in price, waiting for a move could sort of lock you out of his replacement. So if your new player is rising in value and your old player is devaluing in value, would it be better just to hit the reset button right now if you've got it wrong? Because it could take you weeks to repair.
Check the injury situation. If they've come through the game clean and they seem to be fit and healthy, certainly for the first 3 or 4 game weeks of the season where transfers are the most volatile, because you've got 9 million active players now. Give it 7 or 8 weeks, you'll be down to 6 or 7 million active players, because the people that have dabbled will have dropped away. Yeah. So this is where the pricing is. I mean, people are going up on a Saturday night. People are dropping the price. Mad. This is unheard of. It's ridiculous. But take advantage of it. Like, for example, the move I did last week from Kane to Haaland. I saw he was going up on Sunday night. It was a move it was a predestined move I was going to do anyway. And especially after Haaland banged a brace, it was a no-brainer. So it was like, fine, get the move done. Later on in the season, and by later on, I mean, even once the European games start, to be honest, where people could get injured midweek, where you could be picking up injuries midweek, wait until the press conference is on the Friday, because team value is great, but it's not the end of the world. Points on the board are what counts. And if you make an early move and find out your player's injured, that's going to cost you a -4 to put it right. Or you're stuck with it. At the moment, until the European games start, until cup games start, until midweek games start, if you see that one of your guys is going down in price, the guy you want is going up in price, move, get it done. Because you'll get team value. You'll get team value on it. You won't be priced out. Like, a lot of people would have been priced out of the Haaland move if they didn't do it on the Sunday and they had dead money. They couldn't then go Kane to Haaland without.
And the same as Jesus. If you don't pick up Jesus now, you're probably going to be paying.
Well, exactly. I have 0.5 in the bank. Jesus is on 8. Wilson is 7.5. I know Jesus is coming in for me. Every day I'm checking the price change sites, and if it looks like Jesus is going up, I'm doing it. Bang! I'm not hanging around. So early stages, first 4 or 5, 6 game weeks. If that is going to happen, and you can see it's going to happen, because we're all aware of the price change websites, I'm sure you are. Have a look at those, see what's happening, see what the fluctuations are. Don't get priced out early on, but once we get into the heat of the European games, team value ain't that important. Wait until the press conferences would always be my. And also, you've got a week to think about things, and it makes it, I mean, at the moment, if you haven't got Jesus, you've got to have Jesus. So my move this week is easy. But when you get latter part of the season, you start to overthink things, especially when you're at the pointy end, and every decision means whether you get a 10K finish or you don't get a 10K finish. It makes a big difference rather than when you're in. Difference. I mean, at the moment, I'm just having a laugh. I mean, I'm 4.5 million.
Wow.
It's like, I'm hoping by game week 8, I might be back in the top 200,000 maybe, but I've got to put it right quickly, because a lot of people have got the same players, and that whole template thing starts to come in. And if you get too far behind, the old expression is, you can't win fantasy in the first couple of weeks, but you can certainly lose it. And I'm going the right way about that.
Yeah, definitely.
I took the 2 most highly owned players, Haaland and Jesus, I took a gamble on, didn't work. But
yeah.
I've got 36 weeks to put it right. So
exactly.
Here we go.
So Cam says Ian is great. We miss him on Friday night.
Oh, bless your heart.
Yeah, we're hoping. He just hasn't had the time to come in because he's been so busy.
I've been touring. I've been away. I've been on tour, but and I'm going into a new musical now through September and October, so that might be tricky. But I'll do it when I can.
Definitely. So, Ian, thank you very much for joining us.
Always a pleasure, mate.
You guys who are watching, the code is there. Most of you are already in the league anyway. But for all you 101 members, if you're not in there, this is the code. Join the league. It's a real laugh. I'm actually going to take it very seriously this season because I'm
still going to beat you though, mate.
I know. So, guys, listen. Thank you very much, Ian. I really appreciate your time and advice. And listen, may the best people win.
Absolutely.
All right, nice one, guys. All the best, everybody. See you later.
Night all.